Now, important note 1, this is, also from your examiner. It's clearly visible from the marks distribution for the question 1. Another, that question 1 of both papers will require little more than half the time to be planned for essay length question. This is your examiner telling you. Most of us, even teachers perhaps, have not read it in details, and that's why at times you will find some of the books also talking a little differently than I am taking this, and you're going to take, inshallah, and go to score high marks in this question. But this is your examiner's wordings, and that's why the color is different and now the form of assessment has been changed. Now this you can go quickly. Now it used to be point system. You have a 4 marks question, you give 2 points, you get 4, or 4 points, 4, or you get 1 point and you get 4. Now you may give 3 points, 1 point. He is not interested in the points. He says point system in which 1 mark was awarded for each relevant point, or 2 marks, 3 marks. But in answer to a level system, which has now been introduced as I've shown you in the table, in which the candidate's overall response to the part of the question being answered is marked according to the series of levels, like last 4 levels. I am not going to talk about the level 3 and 2 and 1 in any case, of course. Neither are you interested in getting anything below 8 out of 8. So the grid containing the levels of response for each part questions and the criteria that determines these levels and the accompanying marks are shown at the beginning of this syllabus, which I think I will not be talking about. Now this change means that examiner will now be assessing descriptive answer on the comprehensive, relevance and accuracy, the fact they contain, rather than on the separate points. Now if you have been able to understand that, believer, you cannot be a believer unless you unless you prefer your brother over your fellow beings. Now I may give you one more here. Excellent. Although when we'll come to it, the example is that Allah says in the Quran that you cannot attain piety. Then tanalul birra. You cannot attain piety unless you spend from what you love the most. That means this is the excellent or the exact ayat or belief which we have been able to find out. And then this is what he says, that then you have to be very, very relevant and extremely accurate. But if you follow this system which we are recommending, that we quote from the Quran the belief part and then explain it in the B part. A part we give the belief as from the Quran as an ayat, and in the B part we explain that. That will be the very easy. Now they inculcate the facts they contain rather than on the separate points. They include and will be assessing, evaluating answers according to the depth of understanding. I'm sure by now you are understanding that you cannot be a believer unless you prefer for your brother what you prefer for yourself. This is the second hadith of your syllabus, and I'm taking it because we're going to talk about it and explaining the examiner's requirement for this hadith. Understanding that is demonstrated, an ability to provide insights about putting key teachings. I would say, to summarize this, one can say that it's only possible if you have first understood the hadith very, very clearly as to what's the exact requirement. And that's what I am going to recommend now. Important points. Now we have started over with that. To note, must remember if any hadith has 2 distinct parts. For example, this hadith has got 2 distinct parts. First part says, maybe it's too small, but you have it in your syllabus. Religion is sincerity. It is a hadith now which includes, its reference to context as well. We said, this means the Muslims said, the community of the Prophet said, to whom? And the Prophet answered the Prophet said to Allah, to his book, his messenger. Now if you see that this first part of what is religion, sincerity to Allah in his book and messenger, is first part. And the second part is the leader. This is now we, you and me and everybody. Your leader can be your parents, leader can be teachers, relating to yourself. And this is the first. So in religion is sincerity, in which first part is dealing with Haqooq Allah. Now that's the technical word I now include. That is Tawheed, Kitab, Quran, Kalam Allah. Now these are the references which you have learned, I am sure by now, when we are having the lesson about Sharia, and Quran is Kalam Allah, Quran is the complete guidance, and we are, I think, used to this, the references when, from the beginning of our lessons, that when we said 67.3-4, if we pick up our eyes, we'll come back to it, will not find anything wrong. So the Rasul Prophet. Now, I would expect by now you are able to also identify the second part, but let's see it now. Whereas the later part deals with Haqooqul Ibad. When you talk about leader, you've got common people. That's where the Haqooqul Bab. So that means it can be divided into two parts. Then it can be, of course, taken as it individual or it's for community. And again, as I said, that's mostly it's dealing with both. Aimma is Amir, the leader, and Atiullah wa Atiur Rasul wa Atiul Amir is an ayat in the Quran which says you should obey Allah, you should obey the Prophet, and you should obey the one in command. So I've just broken this hadith into parts to make you understand how do you go about your answer in this small, you can say time, short time, and small marks. So now, common people, now again, I've talked about this 49:13, it's surah, and then Surah Maun is another, surah, which is talking about the rights of fellow beings. Allah says, I'll not accept the prayers of the people who do not complete the rights of fellow beings. This is the main theme of Surah Maun. So for common people, the whole Quran is talking about actually the common people and always reminding you of the rights of your fellow beings. This is how we can divide the hadith into two parts. Now, in such cases, divide the answer into two parts. And as I said, that I generally would like you to go for 2 paragraphs when you are answering the beliefs, 2 paragraphs when you are giving the practices, small paragraphs. So, but you could divide your answer into 2 parts for each part A and part B. For example, now we're coming to choose any 2 of the following hadiths and describe their teachings about what Muslims believe. Note, exact wording of the syllabus only A. Even, the D is small and not capital, as it is given in your paper. And in this hadith, answer to A above, 1 paragraph will be explaining, for example, the 3 beliefs which are visible. Note number of beliefs. You can't say, sir, I will always have 2 beliefs, 1 belief. It depends how many beliefs are visible in the hadith. If the belief visible is only 1, then you may just give 1 of the ayats about the rights of Allah or rights of Allah, whatever. Like taking 1 as an example, you cannot be a believer unless you prefer for your brother what you prefer for yourself. Right, in that you said, that the best person is the one who prefers for his brother and he spends from what he loves the most. 392 is the ayat. Now, you may say, sir, is that going to fetch me the 2 marks? Then come to the second paragraph and explain that as Allah says in Surah Maun, that you cannot really, your even prayers are not acceptable unless you take care of your fellow beings. Sir, I have given 2 points. I am sure with 2 points and then explained in B part, you will not miss the total 4. So this is the number of beliefs is going to depend upon each hadith. In this you can see that there is Allah's Prophet says that your religion is sincerity. Sincerity to whom? To Allah, to His book, to His Prophet. So that means you have to talk about all 3 of them. So there may be 5 beliefs. But you have to, see in your answer, and then you will get used to it. Practice is also one thing which we require. For this hadith, now the second paragraph will explain about Haqooqul Bad. First paragraph, Haqooqullah, this is the best example we got by, luckily I would say, from the very first hadith, talked about in the hadith. That is, let's see you telling which beliefs will be explained in the second paragraph. And by now you know it that the second hadith also always talks about Haqooqul Bad. And the second hadith, second part of the hadith talks about the one who is in command, the one who is, and this you'll see that even a monitor in a class, if is obeyed, there will be more peace in the class. So this is why you could see that there is a great, belief we have that obey Allah, obey the Prophet, and obey the one in command. That's what is the belief visible in the second one here. When we go to it, then you will enjoy it, I'm sure. Now, same way. Now, why have I gone to the blue part? Is that part B will always be in blue. Just for me and you to not mix up anywhere, explain how Muslims can put these teachings into action. Now I've taken the second part. Now remember one thing, that's an important point to be noted here. The marks for A are 4, marks for B are 4. Actually you have to attempt 2 hadiths. And you have to attempt 1 hadith and have to give the A part of it, B part of it. That means their A will have 2 and the B will have 2. The next hadith A will have 2 and the B. Whereas here the total are 4 and 4. This is at times creating a little bit of confusion or a little bit misunderstanding, but I don't think you should be, because a lot of people have attempted this style of answering and attained star A's. Note, exact wording of the syllabus now will also have 2 paragraphs each explaining practices related in beliefs. There's nothing, I am sure, so far is, anything which left unclear. The first paragraph of A above about, let's see your response. Now, this is a question I'm asking you, but in the class. So in the second, I'll answer myself. In the first part, you are going to talk about the beliefs. And the second, you're going to talk about the practices. I think when we'll see the answer, it'll be more clear to you. Most important point to note is that the best of the technique and contents of the answer, remains absolutely the same. See the example below. This is where we are coming back to your question. As I said, please write it down so that you, but I have tried to, bring it again and again as many times as possibly we can. Choose any two of the following hadiths and describe their teachings about what Muslims believe and explain how Muslims can put these two. Remember that. Explain any two of the following hadiths. That means you have to attempt two hadiths. 2 times you will be talking about the beliefs. For first hadith, so let's see the example now.